Look, Coca-Cola, fuck off. You're not going to solve the tensions between India and Pakistan. Please don't do that.
Stand by in 3.
It's Christmas.
Are you hanging up, starting on the wall?
Welcome everyone to the Fuel Podcast Christmas edition. As an award-winning, plaudit-garnering new business podcast for creative agencies, a Christmas special makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine, but there you go. We're still human, we're still capable of celebrating the season, and to join me in a glass of eggnog by the crackling fireplace is a guest from our 100th edition, the show that Dave Trott called a masterpiece of podcasting. Mr. Paul Grubb, who needs no introduction really, so we won't give him one. Just kidding. He was inducted into the Advertising Industry Hall of Fame in the early 90s, and his Fuel podcast episode was one of the most listened to shows of the year, voted by Spotify fans as their favourite B2B podcast in the 2-hour category, which was just me, Dave Dye and Joe Rogan's How to Treat COVID at Home When You Have a $100 million fortune, and Dave Dye already has enough trophies anyway. So if you haven't already listened to the podcast, please do, because Paul's been an important part of the global advertising scene, and his work has left a reference point for many a creative to come behind him. On a recent show with Peter Souter, an equally magnificent creative beast, he described Paul as having the ability to take the concept of a cow and reduce it down to a bouillon cube. Make tough propositions easy to understand. Anyway, he's here live from Bangkok at an ungodly hour of the morning, proving that the advertising industry never sleeps, but it does love a tumble in the sheets with the podcasting business from time to time. Welcome, Paul Grubb, to our Christmas grotto. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Keith. Sheer poetry as ever. You remember I said I'm looking for a copywriter? So...
Well, I'm always available at extremely reasonable rates, and
well, that's the problem, though. It's the rates that are a problem.
Well, listen, thank you so much for donating your time to this show. I mean, it is Christmas or coming up to. I'm sure you're busier than a cat covering turds right now, but I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Now, the big difference between you on the show then and you on the show now is that between then and now, you got married.
Oh, yeah, we did actually.
Congratulations.
We're actually in Singapore at the moment, but...
Oh, you're in Singapore, okay.
We go back today. So we've been together for 18 years, and... we got married a couple of months ago in the UK. You have to sort of take your time, make sure it's the right person, right?
18 years, that's a hell of a trial.
Yeah. Well, it was her trial, not mine, obviously. I mean,
Fantastic. Well, tell us a bit. I mean, what did you do for your honeymoon? Because you went to the UK, right?
So we stayed in a beautiful hotel called the Gore in Kensington in the Judy Garland suite, which is delightful, fantastic place, incredibly expensive. But apparently it was Judy Garland's favourite hotel in London, and she... so they say that she had her bed shipped over. So it's kind of interesting to know that we've slept in Judy Garland's bed. Just kind of hope they changed the sheets. But I think they did. But then we didn't really have a proper honeymoon in the UK because, we were both working on Asian hours. So like up at 3 a.m. and stuff like that.
Right.
So when we got back, a couple of weeks ago, we went to Maldives, our favourite place in the Maldives, for a couple of weeks. So that was nice.
Lovely, nice. And what was the weather like out in the Maldives? I bet it was scorching.
It was a bit iffy because it's not the time of year. I mean, normally we'd go to the Maldives in March, April time when it's least rainfall. So it was kind of half-half. We had quite a bit of rain, but some beautiful sun as well. So it was fine. It was everything we kind of expected, really.
Is that close to where you are?
Well, it's closer than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we actually were next door to some. We're in Watervillas. We're next door to some guests from not Indiana, but not far. and it had taken them over 24 hours to get there. So for us, it's a 3.5-hour flight
Oh,
from
nice.
Bangkok.
Nice, excellent. And I mean, as I said, so you're in Singapore, and it's tomorrow there already. So congratulations. Yeah. So you're ahead of us. I feel so behind. That's why I always feel behind the time when I talk to you. Is there anything happening tomorrow that I should know about?
No.
Well, how do they celebrate the season out there? Is it very different, or do you get to do English stuff when you're out there?
So I mean, I don't know about Singapore. I don't live here, and I only visit occasionally. But in Thailand,
yeah.
Like everywhere, even before the UK, Christmas trees were up, and I mean big Christmas trees,
proper
Christmas
Norwegian style Christmas trees.
Not actual trees, but facsimiles of them and stuff like that. But really big ones, like cool. Building high ones and stuff in the malls and everything. But in actual fact, obviously it's a Buddhist country, so they don't actually celebrate Christmas in terms of holidays and stuff like that. I mean, I generally work on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, stuff like that. But it's kind of up to the individuals, really. It's fairly loose, but it's not an official public holiday or anything like that, no.
Right, okay. And I mean, so there's no kind of special feast or anything. I was wondering if the food, how different the food would be.
Well, the food's always different for me because I'm vegetarian, so sure. The turkey's not on the menu. But no, it's fairly relaxed. It's actually it's kind of difficult because it's one of the busiest times of the year for marketing.
Right.
But then like production companies, the clients generally are sort of not available between sort of Christmas Eve and New Year's Day, like in the West. But it's not an official public holiday.
Oh wow! I
think people have families outside, and they kind of take off and go meet their families and stuff like that. So yeah.
And there's just you left in the office.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're back at 2 or 3 days a week now in the office. I don't know what it is in the US or the UK.
US is pretty much back on full on now.
Really? Oh, well, like 5 days a week?
Oh, yeah. They don't stop. That's the crazy thing about them over here. They just, I mean, the one thing that I've really, and I guess I don't know whether it varies from state to state, but there is an incredibly strong work ethic in the US, and no paid holidays, literally the day after Christmas, back to work. Everyone's back to work.
Yeah. No, I thought, again, we were all predicting like the new way of working, and it would be flexible, stuff like that. And it sounds like a good idea. Currently, we're still in the flexible mode in Asia. And I think it is a good idea, but I'm surprised that the US has gone back so quickly. I know sort of, good old Elon sort of threatened all his staff if they didn't want to come to the office, they could find alternative employment. But
what a Grinch! So anyway, I mean, as far as your actual Christmas Day itself, I mean, do you do any kind of like stuff that you used to do in the UK? I mean, is there any sort of traditions that you keep on going?
No, not really. I mean, we for a while when we first moved into our house, we did put up a Christmas tree and stuff like that, but then we got a couple of bull terriers and they don't go well together. So we stopped doing that and we just got out of the habit of doing it. So no, we don't. Right. I think it's kind of bizarre because you'll wake up on I still can't entirely get used to it. You wake up on Christmas morning and it's beautifully sunny and hot outside.
Wow. Yeah.
And like you do sort of miss that old Christmas postcard kind of feeling vibe of waking up. It's a bit dark and there's snow on the window ledges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's cold. but I don't know. I think I prefer the heat.
Oh yeah, well I understand it completely, but and that would be weird. I don't think I've never celebrated Christmas in the heat, but you know, I know it's obviously some people have to, you know, but and so obviously, I mean, you know, you can't really sort of do things, can you? Like you know, sort of watch the what used to be the Queen's speech, but the King's speech now and all that lot. Because
You're going to do one, by the way.
What, Queen's speech?
Yeah, a king. Is there going to be a King's speech?
I think he is. I think he's going to do. I'm not sure because I think he should. But you know, I mean, the thing is, by the time he does it, you know, it's 3:00 in the afternoon in the UK, which is like, you know, 10:00 in the morning. I mean, I'm not ready for it, you know, and you know, I'm sort of in olden days, I used to be a couple of glasses of champagne in, even by 10:00 in the morning. But you know, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore, you know, because I don't think either of us drink now, do we?
No.
No. Anyway, well, look. Let's rock on. Just so as I can justify this as a work expense, we do need to have a slight chat about business, if you don't mind. And well, enough of this trivia you keep blasting me with. And my first question relates to something that Graham Fink was talking about, your old mate, which is artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And I thought this would be a good one for you because I've been watching recently, and I'm sure you've been playing about with them as well. But all these kind of AI art generation sort of portals and stuff where you can sort of give it a brief and stuff. I mean,
Mid-Journey and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the one I've been using was I think it's called DALL-E, you know. But I mean, you know, they're fun and stuff like that. But I mean, I mean, do you think you'll ever use anything like that? I mean, is there? Do you think?
I mean, certainly, like Mid-Journey, for example. I think, you know, when we're making like concepts and storyboards and stuff like that, you know, historically we'd use sort of reference images or artists like you know, Illustrator kind of images and stuff like that, but you can actually do it so much quicker and actually quite dramatic with Mid-Journey if you know how to sort of put the correct
brief
prompts
there.
Yeah. So I think it will become a thing within advertising because it's a valuable tool. In terms of the sort of personal images and stuff like that, I mean, the obviously the image harvesting that's going on is unreal. And I, you know, I've done it myself, right? I've got some fantastic pictures of myself that make me look like some kind of brooding Hollywood actor, and they're great. But you know, you obviously you have to give up, you know, like 10 or 20 of your personal images, and you basically give them the rights to use those images. So yeah, it becomes that whole sort of privacy thing, right? What's the price of what you're getting? I mean, is privacy that important to most people? I don't think so. I mean,
probably
obviously privacy in terms of your bank account details and stuff like that, and your medical history and all that kind of stuff, yes, it's important. But like, do people care if someone has a portrait, one of your photographs? I'm not sure.
Sure. Yeah, no, I can see, and I mean, I think that's there is a very clear distinction between, because obviously, if you're getting something for free or at a reduced price, I mean, if you're having a piece of artificial intelligence basically working over and producing something for you, then, you know, who gives a crap if your image shows up somewhere else? You know, as long as it's not used for pornography or something horrible.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Sorry, just to sort of elaborate, I do like all the AI stuff, and it's still in its infancy, right? It's still kind of very, very nascent, and I just think it's got so many possibilities, and we don't know yet how it's going to sort of play out, but you kind of hope that the way it plays out is good, and not like some kind of dystopian science fiction novel. But we'll see. It feels kind of exciting and useful. I think it's the useful bit that makes me happiest, because I'm not really into sort of shiny new things for their own sake. Like, I was never really into NFTs and stuff like that. I just think it seems to be like a nonsensical scam, but that's just my own personal opinion, right? But I don't see the use in those, right? But I do see the use in from a business perspective and helping us do our job better. I do see the use in things like the AI image generation things. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, that's good to hear, and I'm sure Finky would probably would back you up with that one as well, wouldn't he? Because he loves his technology.
He's kind of at the forefront of it anyway, with his eye drawing and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's stunning stuff. Absolutely stunning stuff. But
it's brilliant.
Okay, so let's talk about your specialist subject, which is, of course, vehicles and automotive marketing. There was a piece I saw recently on Reuters, so I mean it must be true if it was on Reuters. But the fact that Tesla is kind of upping its game in that part of the world now, but more I think more broadly that Thailand is kind of pushing for EV adoption a lot more and stuff. And I mean, as with your work with Ford, I mean, is there a kind of a long-term vision there for the sort of EVs and for trucks? I mean, is there a kind of? Are you seeing a demand, a pickup in demand?
Well, look, I can't speak for Ford's plans, obviously, because that's confidential. But I think just generally, and we sort of touched on this on the main podcast a while ago. I think yes, there is a sort of a desire within the marketing and business industry to bring in EVs and stuff. I always question whether that desire is replicated amongst the average person who buys a car or a pickup or an SUV or whatever.
Right.
Whether they even care about that kind of stuff. But the main thing that will sort of hold it up is infrastructure, of course, because charging stations and things like that there aren't any. There's a couple of hotels that have 3 parking spaces with charging stations and stuff like that, but honestly we're a long way from having a scenario where people can buy an EV in the full confidence that wherever they go they'll better charge it. A long way from that. Once
the infrastructure's there, then I think a lot. It's all going to fall into place, because I think now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd buy an EV tomorrow if I knew that it was if we could charge it anywhere and stuff like that. Yeah.
And there's.
When we're in London, again, even London's not got the sort of full infrastructure for it, but there are so many electric vehicles now in London, or hybrids, even from last year. And I find it freaky because I almost got run over a few times because you can't hear them coming.
No, exactly. They need some kind of early warning system, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they need a sound. Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing is that, and I mean, this you can sort of be interesting to explore this with you as well. Maybe not on this show, but somewhere else. But I had a chat with Rachel Conrad, who is an ex-Tesla employee, and she was basically saying, and I think this is the point to how they get round this is, as far as EVs are concerned, they're pitching them at the wrong people. The people that they should be pitching them at are people like me. I only do probably 150 miles a month, right?
Yeah.
In my car, right? The rest of it is, it is either walking, cycling, or whatever. Yeah. All right, but I'm not in the car. I don't drive incredibly long distances. I go backwards and forwards to the grocery store, that sort of stuff, so I'm doing very low mileage. And that's where EVs will really sell, is to, if they were cheap enough for people like me to be able to afford that, I could just use it, keep it charged up in the driveway, all ready to go whenever I needed it. That's it. They're just not there, but they're trying to sell them to people that are doing, 250, 300 miles a day, and that's where it becomes difficult. So I think once they start pitching them at people that are, sort of occasional drivers or low mileage drivers, I think that probably makes it more economical then.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I'd happily buy one, but I think I did hear about Tesla and Thailand and stuff like that. But again, without somewhere to actually plug it in, it's going to be a wait. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the government's plans are for creating the infrastructure, because it's not up to Tesla to do it, is it? It's up to the government to say okay, or sort of individual businesses like hotels and office blocks and stuff like that. But that again, that's just in the city, and Thailand's got a lot of sort of outdoorsy areas where you're just not going to be able to drive it and charge it.
Right. Yeah. No, understand. All right. Well, look, and finally, I have to talk this with you, because now we're going back. I just wanted to reference this because I just saw it and I thought, well, you're a man who grew up, right, using, when you were cutting your teeth in the advertising business, the name Pantone was just it was the brand to go with, right? And it was the reference point for every colour that you ever used. And I mean, I don't know whether you saw recently about the fact that they started charging Adobe users for the use of the Pantone colours. I mean, and one of my sort of other art colleagues had said to me, he said, well, it's the end of them. They're just trying to make money before they go. I mean, do you think that's the end of Pantone, or do you think they've got a future anywhere? Because we've got web ready colours now.
Honestly, I mean, yes, I remember Pantone in the same way that I remember Kodak. It's just not something that I've ever come across in the last couple of decades, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I did vaguely hear something about that story, and I was surprised to know that Pantone still existed, and I kind of wonder why. I mean, my only kind of experience with things like that is choosing colors of paint for doors and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the relevance of it is today, to be honest. So yeah,
it's a shame, isn't it? Because I mean, the one thing I always loved those swatches. The Pantone swatches were a staple in every art department, weren't they?
Yeah, I remember them well, but I haven't seen them for decades. So exactly. Like I say, I was kind of surprised the company was still in existence. I mean, what does it actually do?
I don't know. It makes colours. How does that work? How do you make colours for a living?
I don't know. I suppose people make fragrances and stuff like that and make a quite good living. I don't know, but
that's a great question.
Apart from copywriting the code name for the color, how can you copyright a color?
Yeah, good point. Well, I suppose, I mean, the point wasn't it? It was for all about branding, wasn't it, to start with? And in terms of...
so like the one that comes to mind is Tiffany, right? Tiffany Blue.
Yes.
Because it's probably one of the most famous ones. And Tiffany Blue, you can copyright the name Tiffany Blue, but you can't copyright that actual shade of aqua, whatever, because it's used everywhere.
No, and somebody's going to mix it up in a paint somewhere, in an oil painting somewhere, aren't they?
It's a bizarre business, really.
That's a great observation. Thank you very much. I knew I'd get some magic out of you there. Fantastic.
I mean, we're in a very silly business anyway, aren't we? I mean, advertising, marketing, whatever you want. We're in a silly business, but it's an enjoyable business. But Pantone seems like a really bizarre one. Hey, I work at Pantone. Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Here's my business card. I wonder what colour they are.
Yeah. People still use business cards?
Oh, there's another thing, isn't it? Who uses business cards these days? But anyway, right, come on, game time. now that
Oh,
we're,
dear.
we're kind of into it and in our flow, I just wanted to play. It is that time of year, and I wanted to play a few traditional kind of Christmas games. And they're a time for the whole family. You know, Christmas games traditionally, time for the whole family to correct one person who's been playing the game wrong for years. But I understand you're not really a sort of games person, are you? So.
No, this is where it all goes off the rails because I'm not really, not really very good at any games, and I've never ever actually solved a single crossword clue in my life. That's a sad admission for a sort of perceived copywriter, but games and it's not my thing, you know. Riding motorbikes and driving cars are my thing.
There you go.
But
Fantastic.
but let's give it a go. It'll be fun. And I'm, you know, I noticed you said that we weren't going to be playing charades, but that would have been cool. Sort of like two or 3 minutes of total silence.
Me just shouting out words.
Yeah.
Ship, boat, horse. Fantastic. But no, these days I'm more of a Wordle fan myself. But I've been.
I've never played that.
Oh, man, I got hooked on that. It was one of my connections on LinkedIn started talking about it, and I was like, I thought I have to check because I love sort of word games and stuff like that anyway. Yeah. But and I got playing it, and it's like now.
I see people posting on Instagram these sort of like look like Tetris lines with green bars and black bars and stuff like that. And I think, what the hell is all that about?
It's how many? It's basically how many goes, because you only get six goes, I think, to get the word, and the green indicates a correct letter. So, you know, say the first line you get two green, the second line you get 2 plus another one, and then gradually you work out. So, and the idea is that you're supposed to try and I've solved it in 2, but I've never yet, because you have to pick your starting word really carefully, right? And I always use the same starting word, and that starting word has never been the Wordle word. But anyway, so we've gathered together a few favourite family Christmas time games. We're going to start off with Monopoly. Now, just out of interest, just to tee this up, Hasbro, which has owned the rights to Monopoly since 1991, let fans vote in April to bring back one of the 6 iconic retired tokens, right? Which was thimble, wheelbarrow, iron, boot, horse and rider, or money bag.
What about a top hat?
It wasn't retired. Never retired.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. The thimble actually is coming back. But when I was putting this together, I was thinking that it said the thimble will take the place of the T-Rex. I was like, what the hell? When did T-Rex come on the board and why? Mind you, I mean, who drives a bloody great big hat round the place either? But the T-Rex was actually voted out. So, and Monopoly retired the thimble as well as the wheelbarrow and the boot, and added penguin, T-Rex, and rubber ducky. So anyway, thimble's come back now anyway. So thank you. I'm glad. So we've got.
Monopoly sort of went through a sort of not rebrand, but they did loads of brand extensions or line extensions. I can't remember which one it is now, where they had like the Beatles or Harry Potter Monopoly and stuff like that, didn't they? Yeah,
they theme that you can buy theme Monopoly stuff, as well, and I saw something in the I think it was on Twitter, so you never know if it's going to be true or not. But I saw something on Twitter that somebody had uncovered a floor in a house, and it had a huge, giant Monopoly board underneath. They lifted the tiles up, and underneath was from the 1960s or something else like that. Somebody designed a huge Monopoly floorboard or floor. So there you go. Anyway, so the part of Monopoly that we're going to focus on is the get out of jail free card, all right? Which is, and in this case, it's something that you never thought you'd get away with, but you did, all right? So I'll kick off, all right? I'll put my cards on the table first, and then you have to come up with something that you did that you never thought you'd get away with. My one, I was standing at King's Cross Station, by the ATM, all right, waiting to take some money out, and I keep seeing people in front of me looking confused as they were walking away. And so there was about 3 people in front of me, and as they everybody was doing it, everybody was looking really confused as they were walking away. So I was like, okay, so came to my turn. So obviously worried about losing a load of cash because I'm notoriously tight-fisted. I put in like £10, right? I was just asked for £10. Out came £20, right? So they put the wrong notes in the wrong dispenser. Right, so I was getting 20 for every 10. So I actually, I then went back and I put 200 in. All right, I asked for 200 and I got 400 out. And I was thinking sooner or later the bank's going to kill me for this, right? But they never did. They never did.
Oh, well,
so I ended up 400 quid to the good. So that was my get out of jail card. That was my free one. So what have you got? What did you get away with?
Well, nothing specific like that. I think mine would be the entire 90s. So, I mean, a specific story. I honestly, I don't know. But look, so I rewatched the other day. I rewatched Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
And I think it you know, obviously the 90s, the 80s for me were like sheer hard work. You know, we were just basically building a career and stuff like that. And it did carry on through the 90s. But the 90s was a kind of decade of complete hedonism and misbehavior. But I think the difference between what we were doing and what Jordan Belfort was doing, apart from the sheer scale of the money involved,
right,
was we were just sort of having fun, and but it was like hedonism without malice. I mean, we were having fun, but not at anyone else's expense.
Right,
we were just having a great time. You know, it was a good time financially for the business, for the industry, and for individuals that were doing well. You know, we were like misbehaving children, but we weren't doing anything out of malice to anyone. No. We were actually trying to help everybody to enjoy it as much as we did, right?
And you're still showing up every day as well for work.
Yeah. No, totally. And the other thing was the work was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very, I wouldn't say it was. I mean, we didn't do anything that would have implicated us to go to jail or anything like that. But it was one of those. It was probably the decade where I go, wow, we actually went through that and we did all that shit. And yeah, we were so lucky. And it's kind of like I don't know. I'm not sure that's available to people now.
No, it's like the music business, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like it's flattened out like the music business. I mean, nowadays, you know, the most outrageous person you get is Ed Sheeran, you know, whereas, you know, just see your
surely it's Yeezy, isn't it? I mean...
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the yay, but he is he's in a league of his own. He's in a completely.
I know he's the musical version of Elon, isn't he?
So anyway, okay, great stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. That's superb. Well, that's Monopoly out of the way.
Okay.
Next up is Scrabble. Okay, and a word that you love to use that will impress people. And so what we're going to do is we'll compare letter values and we'll see who wins, all right? And did you know, here's an interesting fact about Scrabble. Did you know you can actually call bingo at Scrabble? It's part of the rules, right? Just to shout bingo. And that is when you play all 7 tiles in one go, which I've never done.
Oh, okay.
But
I've never played Scrabble, so there you go.
Well, it starts off. You get 7 tiles, right? They're random.
That's what it is, yeah.
So, but if you can,
I mean, like crosswords, I'm not particularly good at that kind of thing. But yeah, I like words, and I like the what is it? The etymology of them, the sort of genesis of words and stuff like that. I like things like that, but I'm not sure that I have any words that would be valuable on the Scrabble board. Aren't they? Don't they tend to be very, very long, complex words?
Not always. No, well, because one of the highest scoring words is key. Q I. Because
quite interesting.
Q is a 10, so and then I is a 1. So I think you slap that down on the board. And
What does QI mean other than
no,
quite interesting?
Damn it! Why did I bring that up? Because I knew. And do you know what? Today I did think. I wonder what that means, because I'd love to be able to use it in a conversation somewhere.
And how do you say it? Is it key or qui?
I don't. Well, it can't be qui, can it? Because it's got no U in it, so it'd be key. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, my word. All right, my word is 17. It's 17 points. Okay, and it's a totally relevant word, and I've used it, so I'm quite happy with it. It's gaslighting.
Okay, gaslighting.
Right. And that word comes from the 1938 play and the movie, obviously, Gaslight. And it's have you ever seen the movie? Fantastic, Fantastic movie. Charles Boyer, Ingrid Bergman, Joseph Cotton, and the recently departed Angela Lansbury as well. And it was basically, the gaslighting is the art or practice of grossly misleading someone, especially for one's own advantage. And obviously there's been a lot of that about recently.
That was what it meant back then?
Yes. He was driving his wife crazy. All right, that was basically it, by turning the gas, because they had gas lighting then in those days.
Yeah.
And he was turning it down and turning it up and stuff, and then telling her that she did it or she wanted it that way. And don't you remember you asked me to do that, and all those sorts of things. And it starts off quite innocuous, and then by the end of it, it's like he's literally driving her into madness. So it's a great movie.
Pop star movie, but. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because I just naturally assumed it was one of those kind of modern day made up words. I mean, obviously I've heard the movie and stuff, but in terms of its meaning, I didn't realize it was that old. It's almost 100 years old, that meaning then.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good movie as well. Well worth a watch. But so have you got a favourite word that you love to use?
Well, I haven't got any favourite words. I mean, they're all good, aren't they? I mean, the English language is the best.
All words are good.
Well, the English language is the best language in the world for playing with words and stuff like that. But I remember you asked me a word that I'd recently learned, so I was thinking that, and one of them was I'm not even sure I'm saying it right, but it's bathos, and it obviously rhymes with pathos.
Oh, bathos. Okay.
Bathos. And it's probably worth nothing on Scrabble, I don't know. But what it is the definition is an abrupt, presumably unintended juxtaposition of the exalted and the commonplace, producing a ludicrous effect, or a ludicrous descent from elevated to the commonplace or ridiculous in writing and speech. It's like an anticlimax. So it's kind of when you and one of the examples they gave, which I can't remember, made me laugh out loud, was how it was from a line from 50 Shades of Grey, the novel, and it was about she was describing the taste of something, like how elaborate the description was, and then it ended with or something. So it's that kind but to me, obviously they were using the 50 Shades of Grey one as an example of that woman can't write, but it might be that she was doing it on purpose. So we do it a lot in conversation and in copywriting and stuff like that, where you basically you write something very long and elaborate and descriptive, and then you prick that bubble with something at the end that goes whatever,
or maybe not.
So so that's bathos.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you see, that's great. I love that. That's
what's it worth on the board, though?
It's actually worth. I just did a bit of quick calculation. The B is worth some money. That's a 3. The H is worth a 4 as well. So there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's worth 11.
Yeah, you beat me easy then.
Yeah,
See?
but the thing is, Paul, you were actually on the double word score, so you get 22. So you beat me.
What do you mean double word score? I don't know. I don't understand that.
There's a tile where you lay the. Oh dear. There's a tile on the board where you lay your letters down, and if you happen to get a double word score on it, all right.
Okay.
That's anyway. It doesn't.
I'll trust you on that.
You win that one. All right. And here's another favourite. We all love this one. Trivial Pursuit. All right. Trivial Pursuit. And it's been here's an interesting factoid about Trivial Pursuit, that the game's creators, Haney and Abbott, were taken to court by Fred Worth in 1984 over the fact that they had copyrighted some of his trivia from his trivia books. Okay. And the judge dismissed the case, ruling that trivia cannot be copyrighted.
Oh, really?
So there you go. You can't copyright that either. That bit of trivia, you can't copyright it because it's just out there. So it's fantastic. It's a great bit of news. So anyway, but I love all that sort of stuff, you know. I mean, that's why I listen to podcasts and all that sort of stuff. But you just cannot copyright trivia. So that's absolutely fantastic. So to make this podcast that all our listeners can enrich themselves and get another wrinkle in their brain there. So lay a fascinating fact on me, Paul.
Well, this will enrich people, I guess. I don't know whether I mentioned this to you before, but it's always one that sort of makes me laugh, and it's probably not very PC or anything like that. But it's and you might know the answer anyway. It's name the 3 music bands that are named after male ejaculation.
You did this to me before, didn't you? And
did I? Okay, yeah. I thought I might have.
And I can't remember it.
But it's fun, though.
Okay, the one I got was 10cc.
Yes, 10cc was the sort of probably the most famous one.
Right.
And then obviously a more recent one was Pearl Jam. But the one that always threw me, and I thought, wow, that must have been amazing, because back in the day was in the 60s, the Loving Spoonful.
And that's
it's weird, but you know, back in the 60s, obviously there was a lot of sort of edgy stuff that people just simply didn't understand. And I remember watching, it was one of the Beatles movies. It might have been Hard Day's Night or whatever. It was black and white.
Yeah.
And I remember they all got on a train, and you know, they were all given these bottles of Coca-Cola and with straws in, and John Lennon put the straw up his nostril and, you know, pretended to snort it. And it's kind of like back in the 60s, unless you were kind of grown up and stuff, we all just didn't really understand any of that. So they got away with stuff that you probably wouldn't now, right?
Oh, it's like that whole Magic Roundabout business as well, isn't it? I mean, you know, there we were, I was as a kid watching this thing, and I was always wondering why my dad used to find it amusing, you know. But so here we go. Anyway, my bit of trivia. All right, here's one for you. This is a great thing. Did you know? All right, what there is a name for a single piece of spaghetti.
Okay.
It's called
I know that.
It's called a spaghetto. A single strand of spaghetti is called a spaghetto.
So that would be a male gender then?
Well, I guess so, because otherwise you'd have spaghettar, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So if you have a spaghetto and a spaghetti, then you've got a couple. This is bizarre.
Okay, so now we know spaghetti is a male pasta. So there we go. So anyway, a spaghetto, that is what you do. That's the whenever I'm making spaghetti, I always pull one out get one out for the dogs. They always love it. They love a strand of spaghetti.
Like Lady and the Tramp, do they share it? You know, until they come together and stuff.
God, it's so cute. But the only other bit of trivia that I thought I'd lay on you, which I thought was great, is that starfish is the only animal that has an odd number of limbs.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a great one, isn't it? 5.
Yeah, that's very good.
Everything else is 2s. So there we go. Right, now this bit I've been dying to do with you. The last game that we've got is called Talking with Celebrities. Now let me just I have to tee something up to see whether this works or not. All right, okay. Now There is a back to this story. I'm just tell the listeners here. Okay, this is a bit of the show about being tongue-tied by the star power of celebrities. Okay, so quickly, my version, right? 1976. I was 10 years old, and I was in the Blue Peter TV studio. Blue Peter was a kids' TV show for anybody in the US, and it was always on just after you got home from school, and it was a fantastic kind of educational thing. But at that time, Happy Days was the top TV show sort of on there, and rock and roll was having a resurgence, and this was just before the punk rock wave, which obviously, Paul, you'd appreciate. Now, my mum was a dog trainer, and the dog had just won Crufts. Okay, so as part of the gig, as part of the winning thing, you go to Blue Peter on the Monday, and they put you on TV and make the dog just go and pick a few things up, and all that sort of thing. Do some heel work and all that sort of stuff. Among the guests that day when I was up there was Jerry Lee Lewis.
Right? Oh wow!
Unbelievable,
right? He died this year.
Yes, exactly. Sad loss. And Angela Lansbury as well. So there's two people we've discussed, dead famous people on the show. But anyway, so Jerry Lee Lewis is in there. He didn't really need to do any rehearsals, obviously, but they wanted to get the camera angles right and all that sort of business. So he was there in front of his piano, just playing away, and I was sitting off, still in his eyesight, because I was fascinated by the fact that a man so famous was in the Blue Peter studio, and he's sitting there like big cigar, gold rings on his fingers and all that sort of thing, on a blue suit. And he see me looking at him, right? He clocked me, and he said, "Come on over here, Tiger." And he patted his knee, right? And I just went over there, right? And I was so dumbstruck. I went over there and sat on his knee, didn't say a thing. All right, and he just carried on playing his thing, and I was sitting there like a big dumb idiot, sitting on his knee. All right, and it was one of the greatest wasted opportunities to talk to a rock and roll artist in my time, until you came along.
But what would you have said when you were 10? What would you have said?
Well, I knew about him, you see, because I was really into rock and roll, and so.
Yeah, but even in hindsight, what would you think you would have said if if I could replay that scenario? I would say this. What, as a 10-year-old, what would you say? Why am I sitting on your knee?
I've got great balls of fire.
Oh dear.
I don't know. I think it's he was quite a controversial character in those in those days. But I don't know.
As many truly talented genius people tend to be. That's why I don't call myself a genius, because I'm not that controversial. I'm very, very gentle. Yeah.
Well, after this show, you will be. So anyway, I thought I had it beat, in terms of being dumbstruck by famous people, but you got me on this one. So just tee this up, all right? So how, who, and where?
Okay, so obviously one of the things that I really, really appreciate about advertising, apart from all the travel opportunities and the things that we learn a bit about everything, is actually meeting some very, very famous people. So in the 90s, we went through every sort of UK celebrity singer or artist to do the commercials, music and stuff like that. Right. It was fantastic.
Sure.
But there was one particular time we were shooting a campaign for Morrison's supermarkets down in Pinewood. Very glamorous Morrison's supermarkets, but when we were in the canteen at lunchtime, it was very quiet time at Pinewood, and the only other table that was occupied next to us was Julian Temple, Patsy Kensit, and David Bowie.
Oh man!
So we were
from Absolute Beginners, right?
Yeah, they were shooting Absolute Beginners, and we were like, "Oh man, it's Bowie," and clearly we're all sort of whispering and going, oh, and obviously. They knew that we knew, and we were sort of keeping. So anyway, I didn't do anything, but I went up to get some food at the counter, and it's one of those kind of classic old canteens where you have the rails, the 3 metal rails, and you slide your tray down it and point to things and have some of that, and whatever. So I'm sort of like
I'm playing a cafeteria sound effect underneath while you're talking about this. So go on.
So I'm just sort of looking at some of the desserts, and I get this nudge, this elbow into my shoulder, and and I look round and it's Bowie, and he goes, he just looked round and he said, "The spotted dick looks nice, doesn't it?"
and you said,
talk about being tongue-tied. I mean, Bowie was one of my biggest heroes, and
So it's okay. Well, look, I wanted to do this for you, all right, because you've been such a great sport on all this, all right. This was the moment, all right, that we get to recreate that moment for you. All right. Okay. So right, hold it right there. Okay. So I will play the part of the dame. Okay.
Yeah.
There's the cafeteria sound effects underneath. Okay. So you're standing there. You got a tray. You got what? Sausages on there, something like that, or
it's before the days when I was a vegetarian.
Bit of mashed potatoes. All right. And suddenly there's a nudge in your back. All right. And you turn round and you see the dame standing there, right? And he says, "Spotted dick looks nice, doesn't it?"
So I turned around to him and said, "No need to get personal, mate. We've only just met."
Ta-da! There we go. Well done.
Of course, in reality, I didn't. I just looked around and I was like, you're my hero. Kind of.
I love you.
It was the only time I've ever been tongue-tied with a celebrity, because and to be fair, he was really kind of like, really, really down to earth. And it's one of the things that I sort of learned about talking with celebrities is they tend to not want you to sort of say, "Oh, I think you're great," or "I love that," because they hear that all the time. They sort of like want to hear you say, "Oh, I like that pair of shoes you're wearing. Where'd you get them?" Right. Because it's just like they're normal people, right? And they must get sick and tired of saying, "Oh, I love you. I think you're fantastic," and stuff like that. So one of my guys, an example, one of my guys. DFGW went to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and big fan of Anthony Kiedis. And he had backstage passes, and he met Anthony Kiedis and stuff like that. And he said he was kind of disappointed because all Anthony wanted to talk about was this new fridge that he'd bought. And it makes sense, because how many times can you go, "Oh, thank you," because someone's just said, "I love you, I love that music," or "I love this," or "I think you're a great actor," or whatever. And I think it's a really interesting sort of understanding of how to deal with celebrities. That they're much better when you just behave like normal people and sort of treat them like normal people, to be honest, unless they're complete egomaniacs like Donald Trump or something like that, who probably wouldn't be like that. But Bowie was a very, very down-to-earth person, so I think
no, nice. From everything I've heard about him was that he was very very kind of very different from the persona that he
totally. I mean, I think he was quite shy, right? So it's well known that he started all the characters because he wanted to hide behind a mask and stuff like that. But I mean, I haven't met many celebrities that I didn't like. Most of them tend to be very, very nice people, because they're just ordinary people, right? They're doing a job. But no, I think the trick to dealing with celebrities is just treat them like normal people.
Just go, "I love those shoes. That is a nice pair of shoes. Where'd you get them?"
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, don't say that if they're horrible shoes, obviously, because. But yeah.
Fantastic, Paul. Thank you very much. That's great, excellent stuff. So right, well, finally, the bit that I threatened you with, but we're not going to do anything terrible. The karaoke part, which is just really music. Is there? I mean, because you've got when I last time I spoke to you, you had all those guitars sitting behind you. So I take it. I mean, you do love your music, don't you? And
I do. Yeah.
you know, with your, I didn't realise, of course, you and Joe Cocker,
Sheffield.
both from Sheffield, aren't you?
Yeah, I actually there was.
And you're both tradesmen.
Yes. So when I was at GGT, I was one of the account directors, Jim Kelly, who went on to do Rainy Kelly, Camel Rolf, was his wife was a producer at Limelight Productions, which was Steve Barron's company, and they made music videos.
Right.
And Jim came to me one day and he said, "Oh, you know, would you like to direct this music video?" And it's for Joe Cocker. And I was like, "Oh man, Joe Cocker's Sheffield." I was so busy, I had to turn it down, and it was so disappointing because I didn't get to meet Joe Cocker and film him and stuff like that, and B, I might be a film director by now.
you could be making music videos and all that sort of stuff, you know.
No, I love music videos. I always did. I thought, MTV in its heyday, I just thought was fantastic. It was its own particular art form, right? And I even liked, videos like the early Jam videos where it was just the three of them on a white background. I love seeing performers, and so I'm a big fan of all that
it
stuff.
was funny, wasn't it, for British artists, because obviously MTV was an American American invention, and I think the American record companies were so far ahead of the British record companies. So obviously
that said, the very first track that was on there was by Trevor Horn, the British guy.
Oh, Buggles, wasn't it? Of course. Video killed the radio star. Yeah. But I mean, generally, as artists in Britain, it was tacked on as an aftermarket extra, wasn't it? It was like you recorded the album, you did the single, you did the album, and then somebody said, "Well, you realise you're going to have to do a video for this as well." So
Duran Duran came along, and they were doing the $1 million videos.
Oh, that Rio video was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Fantastic. Well, listen, so I've got to ask you, so what would be your Christmas music? If you could select one Christmas track, which one would it be?
It's tough because they're mostly shit, aren't they? But I mean, for me, it's obvious. It's got to be actually just one part. It's got to be that bit in Slade's "Merry Xmas, Everybody," where Noddy screams, "It's Christmas!" You know that bit. But I think I don't know of a single Christmas. Genuinely Christmas music track that I actually like. I think they're all pretty pants, but obviously Slade hold a special place in my heart because they were the first band I ever saw live, and that was 1973, and that song, that was 1973's Christmas hit, I think.
He's back on the box as well, isn't he, Noddy Holder?
Is he? I don't know.
Yeah, he's doing an advert for someone. I forget who it is now. One of the big insurance companies.
Oh yeah, Noddy Holder was one of the celebrities. Going back to the celebrities, one of the celebrities that I met that I didn't like, actually. And I mean, to be fair, it was also on a shoot. It was at Shepperton this time, but on the next stage he was shooting something, and I sort of went round and I went to say hello, and he was just really grumpy, really miserable. But then he was dressed up like a twat, wearing some kind of blue suit and top hat and Christmassy stuff.
Probably didn't feel his best.
So he probably didn't feel great and stuff. But I was disappointed because he was one of my very, very young childhood heroes.
Yeah.
And I still think he's got one of the best rock voices ever.
Oh man, he could scream, couldn't he? He really could.
Yeah.
Good scream.
So I'd have to say Slade. I mean, I don't like the song, and even now we still hear it in Bangkok in the malls at Christmas and stuff. It
says it to me.
That one.
It says it to me, that song. When you hear it, you know it's Christmas. That's the thing, you know.
Totally,
because I mean, you know, obviously grew up around the same time. But so anyway, well, that's great. Well, that will be whether you like it or not. That will be your walk-off music.
That bit's fine. I mean, I like that bit. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll make sure we blast that for you. Let's look at, all right, what are your 3 wishes for the agency world for 2023?
I think probably the most important one is to remember to stop taking ourselves too seriously. You know, the truth is, outside advertising, nobody gives a shit about advertising. Outside of advertising, you know, of course we do in marketing. It's our jobs. It's what pays our mortgages and so on. But going back to that fella Trotty, in the very first week in advertising, he said to me, "You've got to understand what will help you a lot." And I say this to everybody: what will help you a lot is you've got to understand that putting out the milk bottles at night is more important to people than advertising. Obviously, for a younger generation, that doesn't make any sense. But
That's like showing a dog a magic trick. What?
We have to explain that in back in the days of 70s, 80s, and stuff like that, we had milk delivered by these EVs.
Yes,
Electric
early electric vehicles. Yes.
Yes, and we recycled
containers. Yeah, absolutely.
So we were very green back then, but without knowing it. But so people used to have their milk delivered, like where they have 2 pints in glass bottles, and they would be left outside the door on the doorstep. And then people would take them in the morning and put out the empties that they'd washed from the night before. So anyway, that was for people who didn't grow up in that era. But, what Trott said to me was, you've got to remember that advertising is less important to people than putting out the milk bottles at night. Remember that and you won't go far wrong. And I think it's just one of the best pieces of advice, because we take it all so seriously now. Actually, it's by taking it seriously, it's a vicious cycle, because you end up doing it not so good. You know, if you look at what trends and stuff like that, like Ritson's going on a lot about the Belvedere ad with Daniel Craig.
Mm-hmm. What did he think of that?
I'm not sure whether he likes it or not, but he's talking about salience, and salience was what GGT was about. It was about getting the brand top of mind always, whether it was hello Toshkot Toshiba, you can't knacker a Knerps, whatever. All of those things, they were all about salience. So it's not a new thing. Now the Belvedere ad doesn't have that level of intrinsic branding that things like Toshiba and Knerps and stuff had. But what it does have, it just has. I personally, I don't like it, but it's got joyfulness, and there's no sense to it. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's just a piece of film that people have been sharing.
Yeah.
And because when it gets shared enough, you've got the brand salience, and then the sales are going to go up. It's not that complicated.
Right.
Whereas we've now got to a place where, it's beyond research, and we've got data now, and everything is so complex. And I remember being in meetings with Unilever and sort of having conversation. I had this fantastic German client called Frank Schott, who looked a bit like Einstein, but he was wonderful. And we'd be having these sort of intellectual conversations about toothpaste and targeting and all that kind of stuff, and I go, Frank, it's a fucking toothpaste. And he'd go, yes, you are right, Paul, it is very toothpaste. And he was brilliant. But I think we need to sort of stop taking it quite so seriously, because the people we're trying to persuade really don't take it seriously.
Right.
So that would be my number one, and probably the most important. I think obviously, this wouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but I think the agencies need to grow some baubles, shall we say, for
Cojones,
Christmas.
some baubles. Good one. Like
Yeah, and fight for the work a bit more, in a way that we kind of used to, and not just because I'm being a sort of creative prima donna or anything like that, but simply because it's the only point of difference between most brands and products now. You've seen images of there's one doing the rounds at the moment of all the mini SUVs. There's about 30 of them, and from the side, and they're all white, and they all look pretty much the same, right?
right.
So the products have become totally homogenous and the same. What's the point of difference now, other than the brand and the desire? So brands are obviously about signaling, and in order to do that, you need to have something that's a point of difference, and something the work is the point of difference, is what I'm saying.
The creative is the point of difference.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that people see and people will relate to. It's like most products now have gone through a sort of a wind tunnel of research, data, and all that kind of stuff. So they all come out the same, very efficient, but the same.
Yeah.
The point of difference is the creative work. So I think if agencies are going to remain relevant in the next decade or two, they need to fight more for the creative work. And as I say, that's not a creative prima donna stance. It's actually a genuine
Just from a
plea
business,
for the
it's a business case.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
No.
And also for the client as well, because it's our responsibility. I mean, I love the clients that I work with, and it's my responsibility, I think, to convince them that what we're doing is right for the business. It's not, again, it's not just about some kind of I'm an artist, lovey, and kind of stuff, and I want the logo really tiny in the bottom right hand corner, all that bullshit. It's like, this is the right thing to do to help your business.
Right.
So yeah, that would be another one that hope agencies start fighting more for the creative work again.
Good stuff.
Don't see it coming, but it would be nice.
Right. Do you have a third?
And I think, sort of in a way, connected to that, one of because agencies have sort of stopped doing that in a way. Obviously, some agencies do, right? But in general, it's sort of become more passive. But I think what that's allowed is, the tech companies, the platforms, and particularly the management consultants to step in on the territory and start sort of getting a more listened to voice at the top table. And that saddens me because, as a business, we have more experience and ability and talent of human behavior than the management consultants and the very young tech companies. They have data for sure, but we have data too. So I think we need to, it's connected, but I think, the agencies need to compete harder against the against the tech platforms and the management consultants, because they're better at what we do, which is consumer communications. We're better at it.
Yeah.
Simply that. And in order to do it, we need to do the first or the other thing, which is make sure that the work is differentiated, the creative work, and it doesn't go the same way as the brands and the products, where it's all the same. So.
It's a great point, actually, and I mean, I actually I did it on one of my summaries from a recent show I did with Or Weingold from Unrest, and that there is a definite space for agencies to occupy and to guard against. There's some territory there, which is. You mentioned the KPMGs, the EYs, the Deloittes, all those sorts of companies. Yes, fine, they're great with numbers and they're good with strategy and stuff like that. But What they don't have is that ability to look out of a window and see something and go, that is what we need. We need one of those. We need half of that, or we need some of that. They haven't got that ability to be creative in that kind of way, that atom, that nucleus of the idea.
I don't think so, and I think it because it's not where they've lived. It's not what they've been doing. I mean, we in agencies we live in everyday behavior.
Yeah,
it's what we do. It's our area of expertise, and that was always the value to clients, was the fact that we're not the clients. We're not sort of so entrenched in the product, because we know that if we don't have this product, we lose our house. We can give it a sort of external point of view and a detached point of view from a customer, a normal person point of view, And I think that was always our value. And I don't know whether agencies are losing that, or whether clients realize that's the value. Some do, and certainly the clients I'm working with do that. But I think generally in the business, I think I think our eye gets taken off the ball quite easily. So with things like purpose and stuff like that, that takes everyone's attention away. And I have nothing against purpose-driven advertising, but the brand and the clients and the company that you're advertising needs to be purpose-driven. It needs to be in the DNA, rather than just, I saw something on LinkedIn today. I hardly ever use LinkedIn, but we were about to talk, so I was looking at
thought you brush up.
Yeah. And so there was a sort of side-by-side comparison of how all these brands like Coca-Cola and I can't remember all the brands, but there are 4 or 5 brands who sort of done all of the pride work and stuff like that. And then all these brands are now sponsors of the Qatar World Cup.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, yeah, that's not really sort of purpose driven, is it? It's just jumping on bandwagons.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad thing, right? So I think it's one of the things that the marketing industry, we or the advertising agencies as well, it takes our eye off the ball. We need to focus on doing what is the right thing for the brand and for the clients and stuff like that, and do it in a way that we're good at, which is creating differentiated communications, whether it's online, whether it's events or activations or whatever. We need to focus on that and not sort of get caught up with, oh, this is the latest trend, let's do that.
Yeah, and I think that is, it's lovely to hear that from you, Paul, as well, because I think that the industry has been built on the foundations that the likes of you and sort of the Peter Souters, the Graham Finks, the Dave Trotts of this world have created, which is based on a sense of humour and a sense of observation and awareness of what's going on, rather than just having a name, having a brand and pinning it to an occasion. That's not marketing. Any fool can do that, but it takes a special kind of fool, doesn't it, to actually create something, to create an advert that people remember 40 years later.
Well, the other point is that anybody can sort of pin something to an event and stuff like that, but the average person sees right through it.
Yeah.
They go, look, Coca-Cola, fuck off. You're not going to solve the tensions between India and Pakistan. Please don't do that. It's like, just, you make drink. I kind of like your drink, but get on with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was actually a genuine thing a couple of years ago. And I guess it was probably done for awards and stuff like that. But you go, hang on, how naive can you be as a company to even agree to that?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of it about at the moment, and fortunately,
I know.
you know, it's
And that's why, and that's what I'm saying is like, if I had any wishes for the agencies, is just ditch all that bullshit and focus on the fundamentals of what advertising is about.
start making people laugh.
You know, because that's why KPMG and all of the other management consultants and TikTok and Facebook are actually gonna steal your business.
Yeah, good point. Great point. Well, thank you very much, Paul. It's been a wonderful run around the block with you, and look at this. You started in pitch darkness, and now over your shoulder, I'm seeing that magnificent structure with the ship across the top of it. Isn't that?
I don't know. I don't know who designed that, but he must have been on mushrooms or something when he did it, because or he or she or whoever. I mean, 3 big pillars with a giant banana on top. It's kind of like it's just bizarre. But there you go. It's different, you know, and it's probably, I would guess, it's the most visited place in Singapore.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but you know, we went there yesterday. It's absolutely jam packed. It's basically, you know. So again, it doesn't. It's not come out of a wind tunnel of architecture. Somebody's just thought, hey, why not do that? That'd be fun.
That's great, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic. But and obviously very swanky hotel where you are, because you're overlooking a load of really flash-looking yachts behind you as well. Bloody hell!
Yeah. No, it's not a swanky hotel. The swanky hotel's behind me.
But you got a Motel 8 or something then, have you?
Yes, pretty much. No, it's all right, actually.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your support this year. I have to say, we wouldn't have had the Fuel podcast wouldn't have had the year it had without you playing such a major role in it. So it's been a genuine pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been terrific, and you know, I was listening to Peter's the other day, and I mean, I've been a big fan of Peter for a long time, but I'd never met him until we were in London, and that, you know, I'd literally just done the podcast with you, and I said, oh, you really need to speak to Peter, because the guy is a genius, and I might be unpopular for what I'm about to say, but for me, Peter oversaw the golden period of Abbott Mead Vickers, and now I have the utmost respect for David Abbott and his writing and stuff like that. I mean, I wish I could write even a fraction as good as he could, but I can't. But his writing didn't speak to me, because David was very, very sort of middle class, and I'm very working class.
Right.
And, but Peter did a different thing. Basically, he brought he allowed people like Tom Carty and Walter Campbell he gave them the environment to really create brilliant work and TV work as well, which was not their forte up until that point. But, you know, all the sort of the Guinness work,
Guinness
and
surfer ads,
the Dunlop ad, and the Volvo Twister and stuff like that. That was all under Peter. So I've got a lot of respect for that guy.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, obviously, it goes back straight back at you as well, because he paid tribute to you as well. So thank you very much. And we've got another one of your contacts coming up for the start of the year, kicking off season 4, which is Stevie Spring, Commander Stevie Spring.
Amanda Spring, yes. Put your earphones in, your earplugs rather.
Brace yourself for that one. I got to tell you, it's quite a.
Stevie's fantastic. She's very loud and very brilliant.
She was absolutely fantastic, and she does a pretty good impression of you, I have to say.
I know where this is going. If you're gonna get a car like that, you better fucking
don't ruin her punchline, for God's sake. It's a great story.
She'll probably do it better than me anyway.
So anyway, Stevie Spring launches season 4 of Fuel, and just a cracking way to end season 3. Paul, thank you so much again, and give my love to Thailand, and have a lovely, short and fantastic Christmas, however you do with it, and enjoy time with your lovely new wife, or not your new wife, but newly crowned wife and family. And thank you to our audience for lending us your ears. We really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a lovely Christmas and a very happy 2023. And let's hope we can take on board some of Paul's wisdom and help the agency world reclaim some of its lost ground, because we all need it, and we all got a job. We all got to keep food on the table and keep the lights on, right?
Yep, and thank you so much, Keith. It's always a pleasure. Happy to talk anytime.
Thank you.
You know, from a point of sort of 3 months ago, never wanting to do a podcast, to now having done two. I'm actually refusing to do them, but now having done two, it's great. I love it.
Good stuff.
Really,
well, I'm sure the phone will be ringing off the hook anyway, but after this one, then people want you to come on. So thank you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Only for that reason, and not because I've said anything to offend anybody.
Well, listen, it's been great to talk to you, and thank you for participating in our Christmas special. And I look forward to catching up with you in the new year. So a very happy Christmas and a great and successful 2023 for you.
Thank you, and to you too, Keith.
All the best,
Always
my
a
friend.
pleasure. Goodbye.
So that's it, folks. We hope you had fun. Another year over and a new one about to begun. Paul, thank you so much again for getting up so ridiculously early to do the show. It was great fun, and I really appreciate it. In amongst all the lunacy, Paul made a couple of great points that have stuck in my mind. The difference between management consultancies and advertising agencies. The likes of the bureaucratic accountancy businesses like EY and KPMG can't compete with agencies when it comes to creativity. Sure, they can do all the buying, selling and process-driven stuff, but can you ever imagine them learning from Dave Trott and reminding themselves that what they do is less important to the end user than putting the milk bottles out at night? That salience and relevance to current social issues is paramount? That humour works? When you add to that the recent industry news about fewer clients wanting to change their agency relationships in 2023, there's a massive opportunity presenting itself. Target challenger brands, freshly funded startups and new tech companies with propositions that really do engage the end user by tapping into their emotions. This is where the marketing industry can guard its market share. Leave the management consultancies to the bureaucracy and soulless AI messaging while we get on and bring the rock and roll. That'll do it for this show. Something slightly different from our normal fare, but I wanted to say thank you to all our wonderful listeners who've helped us grow so fast since we joined the Marketing Podcast Network. If you've got ears and you work in marketing, you don't need to trawl around the internet looking for marketing wisdom, because MPN has it all in one place for you. Just go to marketingpodcasts.net and get free advice and access to over 35 different marketing industry commentators and experts. Thank you to my team. That's Donna, Matt, and thanks to you. And thanks again to Paul Grubb. Happy holidays, y'all, from Fuel, the podcast for the new business curious. And really, shouldn't that include you?